Here we go, everybody. XRPLion 1 coming back at you with part 1 of a 2-part series. This one is going to be about EBS. And it's taken quite a while to get to this point. It's taken over 4 weeks of hard work putting together information. Some of the information has changed in just 4 weeks, so please excuse that when you see some of the information. But just know that we are in a time, and when we talk about time, today is 756 days since the Lord asked me to come and join him on Twitter to reveal to you what he had already prepared before time began with regards to the quantum financial system, NESARA, and the XRP buyback. So with that, let's go ahead and begin our slideshow, and I'm going to narrate. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible so you can go back and you can watch it. You can look at specific items in each particular section, and we're just going to take it, step by step. Here's kind of a summary of the points that are going to be covered today. You can pause the video here, you can go back and look, but as you can see, we have quite an extensive list. There's over 40 slides, so I want to move quickly. What camp do you fall in? As I was preparing this, I realized that there's pretty much 5 types of people in the world today. There's those that just don't know what's going on in the US or abroad, and that makes up the majority of people. That's probably 96%, if not slightly more. We've got people that are curious. They're sitting on the fence. They want to know more, but they won't spend the time to do the research. They want the quick answer. They don't want to explore and broaden their information base. And that's unfortunate because we just don't have the time right now to go back and try to educate every single new person. There's people coming over from TikTok every single day. There's people from Twitter that are finding the channel. And the only thing I can say is you're going to have to go back and take a look at the videos that I've done. Take a look at the interviews that I've done with Charlie Ward, with Nick Veneman, with Susan Price, with Dr. Pruitt, and listen for yourself. And I always suggest I do this myself. If you're going to listen to a video, put it on as high of a speed as you can, and it'll help you get through content. And you won't lose anything, I promise that. But you'll also learn to accept information coming in at a much faster rate, because we can hear faster than we can see. Group number 3, they're intrigued. They sort of know. They have a little bit of information. They've done a little bit of research, but they get overwhelmed and they get confused easily. So they stop. Then there's group 4, which is the majority of people that are listening to this presentation right now. They know a lot. They know more than most people. They spend time every day. They keep up on the videos, Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, Rumble. They get called crazy by their family and friends when they try to help them understand what's happening or what could be happening or about what's about to happen in the future. And then there's group number 5, which are pretty apathetic. They just don't care. They don't think that evil people exist and that they're out there to harm them. And they turn their back on others who care about them. We've seen that with the C word and the other stuff that's associated with that, unfortunately. Here's a little bit about my background. I started out, graduated from college with an accounting degree. Prior to that, my last 2 years of college, I worked for a private sports management company in San Diego. My biggest client was Miles McPherson. He's the pastor of the Rock Church in San Diego now. Kind of interesting. But I've got over 37.5 years of tax and accounting, 5 years of forensic accounting, working on cases that went before the FBI to prove financial fraud and money laundering. And those individuals went to prison as a result of the information that I was able to put together and present. In August 21st, Jimmy Valley approached me with Val Hill Capital to join the confidential committee to present 2 private offers to the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury Department. First offer was submitted on September 13th, 2021, and the second offer on October 28th, 2021. First offer was presented at $25,000, the second offer at $37,500. Why? That's why I was brought over to Twitter, to reveal the fact that there was an attempt to steal XRP away from the retail holders and to get it for literally next to nothing. The word buyback didn't even exist prior to me coming to Twitter. Jimmy Valley had explored the idea of XRP designed to carry a value between $10,000 and $35,000. Now, what I learned post fact was the fact that there was a much bigger plan with regards to NESARA coming in, the quantum internet, Elon Musk, Starlink, quantum phones, quantum computers, everything quantum, as well as God bringing in his new quantum financial system, which is not the New World Order plan, which was the evil plan, to make sure that we had nothing, own nothing, but were happy. Currently, I'm on the third confidential committee and evaluation committee for XRP pricing models. And you can see below where I issued my white paper with regards to the quantitative and quantum pricing for XRP being used in the quantum financial system on the XRPL on the quantum internet. And that's part of our second video, part 2, but that won't be covered today. In 1994, I attended a private meeting with the former House and Ways committee chairman. And in that meeting, he identified several things that were on the drawing board at the White House. And they had been there for quite some time. The program identified the following items. 1, to abolish income tax because it was unconstitutional, it was illegal. To replace income tax with a 14% consumption tax that would apply to only new items and not essentials, such as clothing, food, etc. No tax on retirement accounts. Now that's significant, and I'll tell you why. There's over $53 billion, trillion dollars sitting in retirement accounts worldwide. $53 trillion. $35 trillion is just the U.S. alone. Now, I knew back then that the simple inclusion of that much capital going into the markets had the potential to raise the Dow to 100,000 and take the S&P right to 12,500 overnight. Now, that was back then. That's not the case today. And that I'll cover that a little bit in a few minutes. There'd be no tax on investments, stock, real estate, etc. So you can see how much capital gets freed up for investment purposes. And at the time he referenced $20 million per person. Now that just blew us all away. We were a bunch of 20, 30 somethings. And if you can imagine at that age, being in the investment realm, Wall Street, and hearing that you were going to get $20 million, I mean, there was a little pandemonium in the room and he had to quiet everybody down. And he told us it was about 30 years away. That's right now, 30 years. And the minimum age was 24 years old. Well, it's come to be known that with NESARA, the minimum age is 24 years old. And there's 3 groups. Group 3 is 24 to 44. Group 2 is 45 to 60. And Group 1 is 61 and over. And that's how the money will be distributed. And the older you are, the more you'll get. So the 61 and over group, they'll get 100%. Now that number referenced in 94, I don't have a confirmation yet as to what that could even be today. But just think about it. You know, that's 30 years of growth. So we'll have to see. So put an asterisk next to that. But here's the key. He didn't call it NESARA at the time. It didn't have a name. But now we know it to be NESARA. That's exactly what it is. That's what has already been happening behind the scenes. What was the plan? Over the last 6 years, we've been lied to our entire life. And they've been draining the swamp. We've come to understand that our birth certificates have been traded on Wall Street. That's why our Social Security cards and our birth certificates all are spelled in capital letters. And by doing so, we become property. And we became property the moment our parents signed our birth certificate. We became wards of the state. So we were basically declared dead as individuals so they could trade us. And I've heard others say that they made over 40% a year trading us. Divorce bonds traded on Wall Street. Life insurance traded on Wall Street. That one blew me away when I found out that if you ever have a life insurance policy and you terminate, let's say it runs out, time expires, or you can't make the payments on it anymore, it doesn't go away. They wrap it up with other policies just like yours, and they're sold. So they can be traded on Wall Street, and they can make money. It's like gambling, like betting. Income taxes, property taxes, and interest is all going to be returned because that's illegal. The CIA was involved in CERN. That's been shut down by the military and the White Hats. They lied to us about Kennedy. The FBI and the DOJ have lied to us. Politicians, 1871 Constitution, which basically converted our country into a corporation, which is now bankrupt. The NESARA announcement was supposed to happen on 9/11 at 10 a.m. by Alan Greenspan. And we all know what happened on that day. There's been election fraud. We're going to see tribunals for fraud, corruption, pedophilia, arrests. Bush, Clinton, Obama, global elites. Most of those people have already been arrested and dealt with. And there's over 500,000 sealed indictments. And I just heard yesterday, it could be closer to 1 million by now. Those are for child trafficking, rigging elections, Wall Street markets and companies being misappropriated and mishandled to steal our money. Corrupt presidents and military generals, corrupt politicians, corrupt fractional banking practices, corrupt Federal Reserve, money laundering, corrupt SEC practices, mafia-style arming, strong arming, Rothschilds, the cabal, the Khazarian mafia, the Mossad. And it goes on and on. This is just a partial list. Then we were lied to about 9/11. There's more information about when it was scheduled and why the press conference was canceled. We know why. But this plan was orchestrated by this gentleman right here. He was behind it. His family was managing $412 trillion of the humanitarian NESARA money that had been entrusted to them, so it would have been available then. And look at this quote. Look at this quote. Sarah, if the American people ever found out what we had done, they would chase us down the street and lynch us. This is coming right from him. Back then. I mean, how much more did they do back then? again, about NESARA. NESARA will be announced very, very shortly. It's already happening. The money has already been moved. Our U.S. Treasury Department already has it. We've already gone away from the fiat dollar. It's dead. It's worthless. The Federal Reserve has been canceled. All three-letter agencies, domestic and globally, have come under white hat and military control. There isn't anything that they're doing or have control of now. But evil is being rounded up. It's being canceled. What's happening with the banks? We saw what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. That was the announcement that all of this was coming to an end, and we were moving into the announcement for NESARA, which is coming. The majority, there was a huge amount of CCP cabal accounts, as well as the Khazarian Mafia and biolab accounts, and that's where the deep state and the cabal were laundering their money out of the Ukraine. That's what's been going on in the Ukraine, just shutting all that down. And I've already been told that there's over 250 U.S. banks that have already failed because they're not Basel IV compliant. Matter of fact, my own credit union just announced that they were shutting down over the weekend. And they were doing system maintenance, and they were going to come back online on Monday, May 1st. Well, get this. May 1st is the deadline. So if banks and credit unions are not Basel IV compliant by Monday, they cease to exist. They can't operate. And there is stuff going on right now after the market closed on Friday that we're going to have to wait and see what happens tomorrow and whether the market's even open, knowing what's going to happen on Monday. So we'll just have to wait and see. Is your bank safe? Is your money safe in the bank? The information that I've received says that 100% of your money in a bank account is mirrored to the quantum financial system. That's the new financial system that operates off of Starlink on the quantum internet. And if you take a look at the lower left-hand corner for Silicon Valley Bank, only 2.7% of their accounts were less than 250,000. Over 50% of the accounts were tech related, Silicon Valley. But they came in immediately. Janet Yellen came in and said they would protect the cash. Well, I was already aware of all this. So don't be concerned about your money in the bank. That's being mirrored onto the quantum financial system. And I'll talk a little more about that in just a different part of the presentation. But don't worry about that part, okay? Don't worry about the bank. I thought this was kind of interesting. I went back and drilled down into the U.S. Treasury Department and looked at one of their seals that they had. And interestingly enough, it was called the watchdog seal. And here's the watchdog. And a dog is symbolic of loyalty. And in this case, look at his hand. He's protecting the key. Okay? The key. Well, that key opens up this right here, right? This metal box. Well, this metal box or cabinet is very similar to what is used in the Jewish temple to store the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. And here's a little more information about the watchdog seal. But look at the scales of justice at the top. God's word, scales of justice, right? And this symbol right here is the Tav. and it's the 22nd or the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And it means cross or mark sign or covenant, which is interesting that they would choose something like this back then, right? I mean, they'd never include it today. And then we have the heart key. And this was something that came up continually in the gematrias that I did. And then these columns, which could look like the Torah, the scrolls, are actually called fasces or fasces. And they represent justice, strength, and authority. Now, this was interesting. I did a separate post on this, and we were examining the U.S. fiat dollar. And it came up from something else that I had seen by Captain Kyle. It goes by Captain Kyle on Telegram. And he pointed out that the only true dollar was the $1 bill. And I thought, if the $1 bill is the only real dollar, what separates it from the 2, the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50, and the 100? Well, look at how the word treasurer of the United States, this is Rosa Rios, who sits on the board for Ripple. Look at how it's all one word. It's one. Now go down and look at how it's shown for all the other bills, and look at how the logo or the stamp changes. It's all broken up. It's fractional. It's fractions. And what they did is they took the $1 and then they made that the numerator, and the denominator was the larger bill. So a $100 bill is $1 over $100. So it's 1 cent. And what did they do? They used those bills to go in and acquire and buy, when that's not what it cost them to do it. Isn't that amazing? I mean, here it is. No one has ever seen this before. I was the first one to report this, to show this to everybody. And I'm not saying that for my own glory. I'm just saying, man, look what they've done. You know, we went off the gold standard in 71. Nixon took us off the gold standard because they couldn't pay back a loan that the United States received in gold. So the only way they could pay it back, think about it. The United States government owes all this money. So what do? They go off the gold standard and they take all of the money from $2 to $100 bill and they fractionalize it. So they pay back hundreds of millions of billions of trillions of dollars in debt at 1 penny per $100. Wouldn't it be nice if we paid off all of our debt like that? But what does this mean? We have left the fiat dollar. We have left the fractional banking system. Every time you went to the bank and deposited your money into a bank, they took that money and they loaned it 10 to 15 times, if not more. And they kept all the profit. And after market crash, they got us to believe that they couldn't pay interest on our bank accounts while they were earning interest by loaning our money out of the bank when they just borrowed it. In fact, I remember going to my credit union and I asked them, because of my accounting background, I drilled down on the financial statement and I said, hey, help me understand how all of your loans are almost dollar for dollar with all of your deposits. See, the Federal Reserve only gave banks and credit unions 2 ways to make money. 1, loan it out, or number 2, buy U.S. Treasury bonds. Well, a lot of them don't like buying treasury bonds, so what do? They don't want, measly 2% over 10 years. No, they want to make, 50, 100% by loaning our money. I mean, this information is coming out, and it's going to be made public to everybody. And I'm telling you what, man, people that worked at banks that weren't aware of this, I mean, how bad are they going to feel knowing how the companies they worked for just ripped us all off? But God's taking care of that. That's the great news. So here's a broad outline of what's happening. There's going to be an emergency broadcasting system announcement. There's going to be a disclosure period. We're going into the new quantum financial system with a NESARA announcement. There's going to be an email with an 800 number. We're going to be connected to a regional call center. We're going to be given a redemption center appointment. Once that begins, the buyback for XRP will begin. Participation is voluntary. No one is required to participate in the buyback. Just know that once the buyback is complete, whether you participate or not, there won't be a market for XRP. So you're going to hold a souvenir, kind of like Survivor, if you don't take advantage of the blessing. There'll be an announcement on the IRS tax abolishment. All taxes and interest are going to be repaid over 11 years. And there'll be an announcement on the new consumption tax. Our government is going to operate on 50% of the consumption tax. The other 7% is going to go to the states. Trump has already said he's going to get rid of 90% of the expense in our government. Unfortunately, I forgot to put that slide in here, but I did an analysis. And when you get rid of 90% of the cost and you have 10% revenue left, and you add the 7% that will be collected on the consumption tax, our government will be run on 37.5% of what it used to be, without all the bureaucracy and all the corruption. Hallelujah. Okay. Evil's been conquered and greatness reigns. What has ended? The deep state, the cabal, the mafia, child trafficking, dirty banks, Rothschilds. BlackRock's bankrupt and gone. Vanguard, bankrupt and gone. State Street, bankrupt and gone. Federal Reserve, neutered. Just a board. Can no longer print money. That's the last day. That's the day that terminated their ability to print money, create money, or do anything in the finance realm. Remember, all three-letter agencies are under white hat and military control. IRS has been abolished. It's unconstitutional. We're getting back all income taxes ever paid. If you were married and divorced, you'll get half of the taxes back, even if you were not a wage earner in that household. You may have been a stay-at-home or a work-at-home mom. No different. You're going to get 50% of the taxes. Federal notes are worthless. This is the day they became worthless. And they're still eligible to be used in the United States for a short period of time, Mexico, and Canada. And that could end any day. What begins? ISO 222. The Emergency Broadcasting System disclosure. All the countries in the world are gold asset-backed currencies now. This is when our new currency, which is called rainbow currency, was asset-backed. Now, rainbow currency is remittent of the promise that God made to Noah that he would never wipe out mankind again. So when you look at that money, that's the promise that God made. That's what it represents. The quantum financial system has already begun. NESARA, GSAR redemption centers are in place. We're just waiting for the announcement. The revaluation of precious metals. We're going to receive quantum trusts. There's going to be humanitarian projects, the XRP buyback, and the release of 6,000 or more patents, as well as medbeds. A lot of people are hung up on privacy. Quantum financial system is about privacy, but it's also about transparency from its ability to monitor and know what's going on. Evil is not going into this new economy, this quantum financial system. Why? Because there was never an intent to provide evil with more capital to do more evil. Good versus evil, God versus evil, light versus dark, bad guys, world wars, global debt, income taxes, fractional banking, drug dealers, child traffickers, criminal gangs, big pharma, corrupt politicians. All taken care of in Executive Order 13818. And they have been clawing back evil's money. All of it. All of it. This is our Red Sea moment, everybody. Just like when the Hebrew people were in Egypt and all the stuff that Pharaoh had to deal with, he finally got to the point, he had enough. And he told Moses, take your people, the Israelites, they were Hebrews, and when they fled, Israelite means those that flee. He told them to take all the wealth of Egypt and go. So they were well supplied. The NSA, nothing stays anonymous. That's a little acronym I came up with. The former director of the NSA had put out a short little video. He said, we got it all. We know everything that you've done. Obama orchestrated the election steal in Italy. Here's information about it. You can read it for yourself. It's absolutely appalling. But they found out that he paid the president of Italy $400 million, which he stole from the humanitarian money, the GSAR money. And it was used to buy access through the Vatican for the Vatican satellites, and they used a hacker to alter the election results in real time, and they sat there and watched it all happening live. So they know everything that happened, and as a result of that, they went back and they literally emptied the Vatican. Emptied it. Banks and brokerage accounts. Remember we said bank accounts are okay. They're mirrored onto the quantum financial system. And that's been identified by Janet Yellen. She said, we're taking care of the banks. She has not said one word about brokerage accounts. I've been in that world. I know how they operate. They give you the impression that your money is safe. That's so they can use it. And this is what I'm going to say. The brokerage accounts, whether it's stocks or cash, is not mirrored onto the quantum financial system. If you have stocks, liquidate them back to cash and have that cash wired to your bank account as soon as possible. This is not financial advice. This is to help protect you in the event of what's coming. All tax-deferred retirement accounts, IRA, SEPs, 401ks, 403s, etc. It is being protected for the quantum financial system. You do not need to worry about those accounts. And I'll talk in a little bit about why there isn't any need to worry. Take screen captures this weekend, tonight, tomorrow. Don't put it off. Okay? When this all burns down, and I'm going to talk about what it means to burn down in a few minutes. If you can't prove what you have in your bank account, and you're doing that for your own assurance, okay? We know it's mirrored, but for your own assurance, if they came to you when you went to the bank and said, can you show us your last statement? Can you show us a screen capture of how much you had? You want to be able to say, yes, I have it right here. Peace of mind. Okay. If you're operating on a Mac, you know that there's a Mac program for doing screen captures. I listed below a free Windows screen capture. There's actually a screen capture built into Windows. This is my favorite. I've been using this for the last 15 years. Absolutely the best, in my opinion. ISO 222. That kicked off on March 20th. It is an operating system for the quantum financial system. So think of it like, Windows for a PC or whatever the names are for the latest updates on the Mac. There's only 8 coins right now out of 27,000 plus in the digital asset space that are certified to operate on ISO 222. And I listed them. XRP, XLM, XDC, Algo, IOTA, HBAR, ADA, ADA, and Quant. Now, they're saying Quant, they're including it, but I don't believe it's certified as of yet, and they think it's going to get certified. Well, I posted this last week when I was doing a reveal on the movie Contact, which is included in part 2. And one of the hidden clues in that was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So here's 1 plus 7 is 8. There's only one Snow White. And then there's 7 dwarfs. There's only one XRP, which is the XRPL. And then there's the rest. And more upon that in the second video. The SWIFT system was brought back, and it was given 2 years to transition, to move their clients over to the XRP platform. 75% of the clients have already left, and they expect that by the end of this year, there won't be anybody using SWIFT. That's why SWIFT equals an X. It's done. Let's talk about the market crash. Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. When we think about a market crash in the past, what would happen? The market would go through a very, very steep decline, and the bottom would fall out. And when the bottom fell out, more selling would happen because of margin calls or because ratios changed in hedge funds or in mutual funds with regards to the percent that they were holding, or their allocation, let's put it that way. It's going to be different this time. It's not going to be like what we've seen in the past. I'm going to tell you why. You can read all this stuff in between on your own. I want to get you the meat, okay? We know that what was in the old system doesn't guarantee it's coming into the new system. If it was corrupt, if it was illegal, it's not coming in. We know that they already seized the S&P. They seized when I say they, I mean the white hats in the military. Seized control of the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Dow. I'm being told that the Dow is going to come into the new system, but any companies that were involved in any illegal activities, they're being stripped out. They will not be included. We're not being told the names of those companies. That's why you can't afford to hold any stocks in your portfolio. Period. Because what if you're holding one of the ones that doesn't get carried through? You had an opportunity to convert that to cash and move that cash into your bank account and have it included in your quantum account. I'll talk about that in a minute. And if it wasn't true, you would still have the cash, right? So there's no downside. There's no downside at all. And the market's already down significantly. Now here's how I'm going to share this with you. We know that retirement accounts are going to be guaranteed. But if the market went into a free fall and dropped 90%, and let's say, just for example, you had Apple in your 401k or your retirement account, and Apple goes from $150 down to $25. The government isn't going to make up the difference in that type of a situation. It wouldn't be fair to anybody else. But what would be a better plan if you want to think of it that way? This is all revelation I've gotten from the Lord, by the way, over the last 756 days. And this has been the most prevalent revelation right now. You have to turn it off before. That's what this little switch is on the bottom left-hand side. You turn it off. So there was a value as of that last day. So they turn off the markets, and Jerome Powell has already indicated he has the switch wired into every market platform around the world. So one switch gets thrown and all the markets are turned off. They go into hibernation, they go into sleep mode. Now, what would we know at that point in time? We would know whatever the balance was right before that switch was thrown. So your Apple would be $145. So now they go over to bring that over into the quantum financial system. The market's not open, but they have a number, they have a balance. Now we move forward. It's going to take time to even decide whether to reopen the markets at all. Why? Because after NESARA and everybody's getting their millions and millions and millions of dollars and millions and millions and millions of dollars in humanitarian projects and millions and billions and trillions for their XRP, who cares about the stock market and all of its corruption? And that's what got us to all this trouble and all these problems in the world, because they were just illegally making money hand over fist, but wouldn't allow us to make any money. Just put more restrictions and more restrictions. I mean, I remember being short the market right before the financial crash in 2008. Or no, the crash in 2010. And Obama comes in and says, "Oh, by the way, we're canceling short selling." You have to close out your positions on Monday morning. Every single person that was short the market took a bath. So they either lost 90% of their account the moment the market opened on Monday, or they were bankrupt. Forced bankruptcy. It wasn't a situation where he says, "Hey, we're gonna take you out of the market. Your broker will take you out at whatever the price was when the market closed." So it was countable. It's quantifiable. Oh no. No, he basically said you have to close your account on Monday after the market's open on Monday. That's why we don't need a stock market. Companies don't need to do what they did to generate profits to pay shareholders who do nothing. This new economy is about humanity. It's about taking care of humanity. It's about love. That's its foundation. This foundation here is about greed and self-interest. I don't want any part of it. That's why God took me out of the markets 2 years ago. So I really don't see the markets ever coming back. And if they do, it's going to take years. Years. That's why you don't want to have anything in a brokerage account. Get it into your bank account ASAP. And don't let your broker talk you out of it. It's your money. It's going to be a tough discussion with him, but you know what? You give the orders, not him. And let him know, this may be just for a time. Has nothing to do with, how you've managed my account. But I've got information and I want to protect my money. And unless you're going to write me a guarantee on paper that you're going to guarantee every dollar in my account, then I have to do what I have to do for my family, my legacy. And I'm just going to leave it there. Okay, Emergency Broadcasting System, EBS, what's going to happen? All electronic devices are going to receive a broadcast note or a message that we have to get home within 3 to 6 hours. And we're going to have to stay home for a period of time. It could be 3 to 10 days. And it depends upon the area and city that you live in or are near. Why? Because they're still going to be rounding up people to arrest. You want to make sure that you have water and food for up to 3 weeks. You want to make sure all the cars are filled up with gas. And prior to, you've contacted your family members to discuss a plan of how you're going to communicate or what you're going to do. Now, they're saying the phones are supposed to be open for a short period of time. But could you imagine everybody in the United States trying to use their cell phone to get a hold of a family member to see if they're okay? It'll blow up the phone system. So have those discussions now ahead of time. It's okay if you sound crazy. It's okay. Do it in love. Just let them know you want them to be aware. Okay? And when it comes to having to stay home, the National Guard's going to be involved. And when they stay home, you have to stay inside your house. You can't be walking around on the street. Because if you're found outside your home, you will be arrested. And you will be taken away right at that moment. And they're not messing around. They're looking for people that can't follow instructions and that are acting hostile or being agitators. Don't be one of those people. Just relax. We're going to go into a disclosure period. Like I said, we're going to be instructed when to tune in. There's going to be 24-hour programming and 3 8-hour segments. The broadcasting programming will be news. It will be showing tribunals, executions. We're going to find out about people, events, and things that we never even thought possible. The child trafficking, the corruption, the satanic worship, the mutilation, the murder, the killing. That's why we can't have these people coming into God's new economy. We're not trying to extend or allow to create what was. This is all about what's brand new. We're going back to common law. Judges and lawyers are going to have to be retrained because they don't operate under constitutional law. They're their own system. Wells Fargo Bank is going to send out an email with a number for us to call. We're going to call that number. We're going to be routed by our zip code wherever you are. Okay? Just, if you're not at home, but you've had to hunker down someplace else or you're not there, it's okay. There's regional call centers or there's redemption centers within 50 miles of all zip codes. They're going to ask you a couple of questions so they can identify you. Why? Because they need to know who they're speaking to because they're going to be scheduling appointments to go get your NESARA money. You're going to appear one-on-one. You're going to appear by yourself, for yourself, during your visit. Now, if you have someone or you need assistance, you're going to bring that up during your regional call to schedule your redemption appointment. Okay? This is not a big thing. This is to make sure they know how to route you to get to a regional center or a redemption center. NESARA, the 2000 Recovery Act. This act was signed by Bill Clinton in 2000. The announcement was supposed to happen on 9/11. Oh, also too, $600 billion in gold was stolen out of the towers, along with the destruction of other strategic and necessary information for NESARA. That's towers 1, 2, 7, and also the Pentagon. The day before 9/11, Rumsfeld said that they had lost $2 trillion. Interestingly enough, the next day, all those records are destroyed. The Iraqi war was intended for the benefit of the cabal. Why? To go in and seize gold and other precious items from those countries. Okay? We have the Saint Germain Trust. Assets were taken back from 18 evil fiduciaries, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, etc. On July 24th of 2022, the Chinese elders signed an agreement with the U.S. Treasury Department. Donald Trump was there for that. Gold was given to the U.S. Treasury upon completing the agreement to back our new rainbow currency. And again, there's the breakdown of the groups. Executive Order 13818, Crimes Against Humanity, provided for the seizing of all assets. All assets. It cancels all credit cards, mortgages, and other bank debt due to the illegal activities. Abolishes income taxes. Creates a national sales tax. Flat tax or consumption tax. Returns to constitutional law. Reinstates our true title of nobility. In new presidential and congressional elections. You can read through all these particular items. Creates the new Treasury rainbow currency backed by gold, silver, platinum, and other precious metals. Forbids the sale of birth certificates, which is being handled by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Initiates a new Treasury banking system. Eliminated the Federal Reserve. Restores financial privacy. That's the list, the long list. Chinese elders, Rodriguez Trust and Saint Germain Trust for the humanities. Spend some time, read through this. This is stuff that people are not aware of. I had no idea it went this deep. And it was really fun to put this together for all of you so that we could come to understand what's going on. The petrodollar is dead. They used to require all oil be converted into the dollar first before it could be sold, bought and sold. All world currencies are going to be pegged 1-to-1. This was their target date. I think they ran into a few obstacles with the NESARA funds being transferred. So this date is probably closer to the end of this month or sometime within the next couple of months. Domestic humanitarian project funding is available at the Redemption Center. The QFS is the XRPL. It is the Starlink quantum internet. It operates at the speed of light. And that ties into the presentation on XRP. It operates in the fifth dimension. I know that can be hard to understand. XRPL, the XRP ledger, is connected directly with XRP. Not XLM, not XDC, Algo, IOTA, HBAR, ADA, or Quant. Otherwise, it would say their name in front of the L. XRP is the master key. It opens up the XRPL, which is the quantum financial system, and allows all the monies and world assets and transactions to be reported, recorded, and stored forever. This is a monolithic financial structure. All banking activity going back to the beginning of banking is on the system now. Every single digital asset is on the system. It knows who had it when and who has everything now. That's more of a discussion for the XRP section. There's one gatekeeper and one key. Nothing becomes legitimized on the QFS XRPL without first going through XRP. Now, there are those out there that disagree. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, if those transactions happening from these coins right here don't get put onto the QFS XRPL, they don't count. They're illegal. And there won't be any illegal transactions going on. So you can see my point. Quantum financial system. What is it? I want to try to wrap up here, so I'm going to let you work your way down through this, and please do. Okay? I'll cover a few things on this. Like I said, it operates at the speed of light, the quantum realm, in 5D. The moment we have the EBS, the entire system goes 5D. That's why it's unhackable. It was created outside of time and given to us in time. It's ancient technology. It performs like the cloud. You'll be able to upload your files and your photos and your music. But the cloud system, as we know it right now, it won't exist. So if you want to keep any of that stuff, you're going to need to download it off the cloud, download it off of Apple, download it off of Google, any place else you have it, and get it onto a portable hard drive. And there'll be a time period where you can upload it onto your QFS account. But if anything is inappropriate, it will be flagged and it will not be allowed to be uploaded. So there won't be pornography. There won't be anything like that. There won't be any derogatory stuff. There won't be, gosh, it was a big list. There won't be any music with 4-letter expletives or suggestive lyrics. Not allowed. That was allowed before, but won't be allowed now. And then the system will peruse itself to make sure that nothing has slipped through or nothing was created. Okay? This was given to mankind by the heavens. The technology has no peer on the earth. Brad Garlinghouse made a quote, it's in my XRP presentation, where he said, nothing has the ability to do what XRP does. Period. Nothing. No other digital asset can do what XRP does. Period. It's a mega quantum consciousness. It's unhackable. It doesn't need a server to operate. No worms, no viruses, no destructive junk. It includes artificial intelligence that can penetrate your computer and search for private information. It's a benevolent gatekeeper. What does that mean? It stands for good. It stands for good. And has no limitation on storage. Nothing. Super cool. Quantum Financial System, Part 2. We're getting our new rainbow currency. We talked about why it's called rainbow currency. Most likely we won't even need currency after 5 years. Paper money. And all that paper money is blockchain identified. So the moment you use it, it's identified right to somebody else. Why? Because their vibration is attached to it through the blockchain. And when they use it, it's attached to them. See, there isn't going to be any underground world. And that's good. So don't cry foul because of privacy. We don't have any privacy. You gave that up when you took on a cell phone, when you allowed Siri to listen in on every conversation, when you put those devices into your house. I mean, I just got back. I mean, I took 7 days off to get some rest, got off the cruise ship, and they did a facial scan as we were leaving. And I walked up to the little thing and I said, do I need to take my hat off? And before I could say hat, I got a green check. She said, no, you're fine. It knew who I was that fast. Your biometrics have been recorded at Walmart grocery stores 160 times every time you go to the airport. Everywhere you go, you've been scanned. So don't cry foul because of privacy. No. That all had to be done to rout out evil so it can't exist. And if you have a problem with good remaining, then you need to check your heart. And it might be a time to have a come to Jesus moment, to repent. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But Kennedy and Lincoln were assassinated trying to bring in and get rid of the Federal Reserve. That's what this identifies. And the fact that our currency now on the debt clock is registered as U.S. Treasury dollars, not Federal Reserve notes. That was the whole point of this. Okay, I'm going to speed this up. Here's the other aspects of the ledger. Please feel free to read this. Part 2,
this is what's so interesting. This has to do with the executive order. And this probably shouldn't have been there. This is related to XRP. So I'll just move past that. This is an interview that I did with Charlie Ward. And we're going to take just a little moment to listen to a brief clip about that, because this has to do with what I'm going to be talking about in the next few slides. So let's watch this short clip.
And David, in our conversations, we mentioned the Q phone and computer at the redemption centers. Could you just walk us through that process for the listeners so they get a better understanding when we get that emergency call?
Yes. Well, the way the order is identified right now, emergency broadcasting system goes off. All of the markets are shut off. Mm-hmm. We then have the disclosure, 2-day, 3-day, 10-day. Then we're going to go into the notification from Wells Fargo Bank via email to call an 800 number. We're then going to be routed to a regional call center in the United States. There's 8 of them. There's 7,000 redemption centers. Each person will be given an appointment after they identify themselves. We'll arrive at the appointment no earlier than 10 minutes. If you do, you go to the end of the line. And that's not the end of the line for the day. It's the end of the line for the entire process. And it doesn't guarantee you'll be seen. It's because it's going to be 8 to 12 days, not 30 days. Then you're going to go in and you're going to go into that initial screening room. And that's where the wheat gets separated from the chaff. If you have a pure heart, you're going to go through the correct door, and you're going to begin to go to station 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And those stations are going to ask you for foreign currency, where you're able to exchange it. It's added to your quantum access account card. If you have dinar, there's a special rate. So first you need to ask what the rate is, and then you need to ask for the special rate. And I've heard the special rate is $11 to $17 versus $4. Then they're going to add that. They're going to add that to your quantum account. Then you're going to go to a station. You're going to get your quantum card. You're going to put your vibration code into it. Then you're going to go to the next station. And you get your quantum computer and your quantum phone. You're then going to go to the next station, boot up your computer, access your account. Once you do that, that card is only works for you. So you can't hand it to somebody and they can't use it. So all of our money will sit on the quantum financial system, operating off of Starlink, unhackable. Everything is blockchained onto the XRPL. It's not going anywhere. You know exactly where everything is, just like they do now. You're then going to be able to set up to 4 sub-accounts, credit union, local bank. You'll be able to get lines of credit. So if you want to go buy a house or a car, they'll give you a letter of credit that you can take and show that you have the money. You'll then be able to, let's see, what's the next step? Quantum access card, accounts. The last step is you're going to be asked if you have a humanitarian project. Now, this is what is key. No more than 3 paragraphs. When they ask you if you have one, you're going to say, yes, I do. It is this. I need this, and I need this. And that's it. So for example, like for me, the Lord wants me to develop centers for foundations to come in, have services provided, help, the new money people understand how to manage money, and then collectively provide services. So I would say, yes, I have a humanitarian project. It's to provide resources for other foundations. I'm going to need money for office buildings, staffing, and utilities, and other resources. Period. That's it.
I'm so happy you said that, because under my NDA, I'm not allowed to say that, but that is a very accurate statement. So you've done me a huge favor there for my audience.
Thank you, Charlie.
It's a pleasure. It's nice when every now and then I'll get Mark Z on to say things that I'm not allowed to say.
Well,
exactly right. And that was very clear to me, because you've basically stated what's going on there, which I'm not allowed to tell my audience. And you've just done it, and I've verified what you've said. This is accurate information. And I will add to that the compliance, as I said earlier, is off planet and can read whether you can see the compliance person or whether in the room and recognize them as being somebody that is off planet or not. I don't know. I haven't been there yet.
Right.
I do know that when you come out of there, every person that comes out of there is put under an NDA for a simple reason, that you don't go out and blab about it and let your ego get the better of you. But once you lose the love of money, once you lose that, and you focus on getting yourself right, God looks after the money for you, and he'll drip it back in. He won't flood you. He'll drip it back in, make your life easier. He has done with me. And the more that I've done for other people, the more God has done for me. God has an incredible sense of humor.
Oh, doesn't he?
And you do a bit for humanity, and he gives you a bit more to do the next day, and sometimes the same day. And he leads you down certain pathways. And when he can see that you're doing it for all the right reasons, he'll give each and every one of you more and more and more. And the number is irrelevant. If you're going out there with greed, it just means that you've been suppressed as a slave for far too long. And when they release those chains that you've been chained up in, and instead of me, the minute you start thinking about other people, you will grow spiritually like nothing else. I've got to share this with you. This just made me smile.
Okay, we're back. Well, I sure hope you like that. It totally surprised me to have that level of endorsement and confirmation from Charlie Ward, who is the director for the Quantum Financial System News. Here's the redemption centers that I talked about in the video. There's 9 stations that we're aware of at this point. There's going to be an initial screening for your purpose and intentions, or of your heart. You want your heart to be pure. You don't want to be harboring any resentment.
Don't want to have any offense. So that's station 1. Let me show you this real quick before we continue. There's going to be non-disclosures. You're going to be given a guide to take you through the moment you get there until you exit. Please be courteous. Please understand there's tens of millions of people that have to get through this process. And there's a limited amount of time per person to do this. So you want to be polite, you want to pay attention, you want to address them as ma'am or sir unless they ask you to call them by name. You're going to ask if you can take notes. You may not be able to take those notes with you. Or if you do, understand that you will not be allowed to show anybody those notes. Period. These disclosures, non-disclosures are very, very serious, and you'll see just how serious at the end. And please always respond with the word please and thank you. Again, this is a privilege. Okay? And don't get distracted. I know it's going to be overwhelming. Take your time. If you didn't hear something, tell them that you got distracted. Remain humble and ask them if they could please repeat it again. Okay, stations 1 through 3. Station 1, you're going to present 2 IDs, license, passport, state ID, government ID, scan your heart. Station 2, I'm assuming you're getting through station 1. They're going to ask you if you have any currency. Present all foreign and domestic currency. Do not bring more than 5,000 of US notes. Here's the information you want to know about other currencies when asked. Okay? Read it over and over and over again until you know it by heart. They're going to take your biometric. This can be added to your quantum access account card. We call it QAC. Okay? That's being done because that vibration is unique to you, just like a fingerprint, and nobody's going to be able to use your card except you. Stations 4 through 6, you're going to open up your quantum financial system bank account right there. You're going to create a password. You're going to receive your card. You're going to go to the next station. You're going to get a quantum phone, not a Tesla phone. You're going to get a quantum laptop. That quantum laptop is about 1,000 times more powerful than the fastest supercomputer on Earth. You're going to log into your account. Station 6, you're going to open and create up to 4 sub-accounts. These are links to your bank accounts or credit unions. They will give you the dollar limits. You can transfer funds into those accounts for your personal use or for your projects. And you can also put that into joint accounts. Do not bring with you cold wallets, gold or silver, or any other precious metals, or more than $5,000 of U.S. currency. Bring all your zims, your dinars, your dongs, bring everything that you have. Station 7 through 9. Station 7, you're going to be given an ATM biometric card with no spending limit. Only you can use it. You could drop it at the mall and nobody can use it. It's non-transferable. You can't hand it to your wife or your kids and say, hey, go have fun. Doesn't work that way. Only works off of your vibration. Station 8, you can request up to 10,000 in new rainbow currency and up to 100 checks. Why? Remember, we talked about some time it's going to take to bring some of these other systems up if they come up at all. That's why you're going to have some cash, because the old fiat currency isn't going to work. And you're going to need some time to learn how to use your quantum laptop in order to transfer money or go to your bank, write checks. You're not going to be able to pull all of your money off of the quantum financial system. They're going to have limits as far as how much you can pull off to put into a bank.
Banks are not banks anymore. They're service centers. They won't be around in about 2 more years because we don't need them. You can request proof of funds letters. What is that? Well, we're so excited we want to go buy a new house. You're going to get a proof of funds letter for maybe $1 million to go buy a house. Maybe another letter to buy a car. There are going to be limits on how many homes you can buy, how many cars you can have for a certain amount of time. Station 9. This is where the humanitarian project aspect comes in. I originally put here 15 to 30 second snapshot of your project. Make sure to practice. Spelled that wrong. So sorry about that. Make sure you have a copy for yourself and a copy to give to your guide. And you're going to ask them to sign it and date it so that you have proof. Okay? 99% of the people out there do not know about this aspect of it. And I've been told that expect $1 million for the simplest of projects. To go and make sure that the kids down the street have tennis shoes and basketballs, soccer balls, etc., etc. And there's a whole other area I don't want to get too much in depth on with regards to how it's going to be monitored. It's going to be monitored off planet. And as long as you're complying, there's the possibility that more money could be available. If you have an immediate need for medical attention, you've been diagnosed with a disease, an ailment that's terminal, you're going to want to make sure that you let them know, because you'll be given immediate access to a med bed for that. Now here's where the rubber meets the road. Scheduling and non-disclosure agreements. Once we start getting our Starlink 800 number to schedule the redemption appointments, there's some communication rules. Right? When you call that 800 number, when you call the regional call center, everything's going to be recorded. Both the calls and the voice calls. And anything that happens with regards to that. So don't worry about that. That's just standard operating procedure so that they can say they spoke to you. And whether you showed up or not, they made every attempt. Okay? All devices that they're using are connected to government databases. And they will be looking to cancel redemptions for anybody who breaks the non-disclosure agreement or discusses the RV exchange rates or anything about their appointment or redemption. Now here's the non-disclosures. See, so you're gonna get that that email, and you're gonna schedule your appointment, but you're not gonna call everybody up in your family and say, "Oh, hey, by the way, when's your date? Hey, I'm next Tuesday at 5:00. Well, where are you going? I'm going over by the super center. No. At that point right there, you just lost all your NESARA. Period. And again, it's extremely important, and I can't stress that. They're looking to cancel redemptions. Okay? You can't cry foul and say, oh, because they're going to make sure people know about this when they do the call, but people don't listen. And if you care about anybody, make sure they know this before they get the email. Because once they get that email, that's when it starts. Then it's lock the lips and throw away the keys. NDAs. They can last up to 90 days. Why? Because there's 3 groups that are going. Remember? 24 to 44, 45 to 60, 61 and over. Certain words will not be allowed to be mentioned. And those will be identified from them. You're going to bring with you to the Redemption Center your humanitarian project, and you're going to bring a 1-page, you're going to bring the additional page to identify those people that you can talk to after the redemption only regarding your humanitarian project. Like, for example, anybody that I believe is going to be involved in my humanitarian projects, their names are going to be on my exemption form, and vice versa. Okay, use common sense. And a wise man once told me, if it's not necessary to say something, then it's not necessary to say it. And unfortunately, I'm just going to, blow the whistle on some people. And people ask too much personal information. And they ask it because they want that information to potentially use to control you or against you in the future. Nobody needs to know how much money you make at work. Nobody needs to go where you're going when you're saying, I'm going to be out a few days to take some time off. It's none of their business. Why? Because they're not part of it. Okay? Do not allow other people to pressure you into giving them confidential private information. You're not going to be sending information or messages to people. That's why the internet isn't going to be working during this time. These are legal agreements that you're going to be signing. And again, read through this. You're responsible. I'm not taking responsibility if you don't read this, okay? You can't say, oh, well, Dave didn't tell us. No, I told you. It's in writing. You can watch this over and over again. Okay? I know just enough to give you some guidance, but there's information they do not want out there. Don't be one of the people that is crying and weeping later because you let somebody ask you a stupid question and now you just lost all your NESARA. Millions and millions of dollars. Because they could care less. Okay? Humanitarian project. Here's some sample information. On the right-hand side, this is the NDA addendum exemption paperwork that you need to create for yourself. This information at the bottom is sample information. You're going to copy this from NDA addendum exemption paperwork all the way down and fill in your information. Don't leave these people's names at the bottom, okay? Put down the real people. Your name, your spouse's name, your brother's name, your sister's name, whoever these people are. And do yourself a favor and get it notarized. There's no better proof than a notary. And get it notarized a couple times so you have a copy. Okay? This is the sample format of language. You're going to create a name for your project. And it has to have the word quantum, that's the Q. And it needs to have the word initiative and the word trust. T is the last letter. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say. This is your responsibility. Study it. Study it, study it. But get it done now. 2 pages. It's going to be like, this was one of them. This was page 1. This is page 2. This is page 1. This is page 2. Big question comes up. Are we going back to 1955 prices? The simple answer is no, we're not. And why do keep people saying this? It's because they don't understand buy-side economics. Okay? You're not going to be able to take and buy a $10 million house for $1.6 million. Isn't going to happen. What's happening is In 1955, a dollar was worth a dollar. And interestingly enough, what happened in 1955? The minimum wage was raised to $1 per hour. What else happened? Einstein died, and so did Martin Luther King. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. I just kept it real simple. Then over time, because of inflation and the fact that we were on fractional money, our dollar in 2000 and at the end of 2022 was worth 16 cents. So how does our dollar get back to a dollar? Well, it grows 6.25 times. And that's part of the golden rule, the sacred ratio. That happens with the NESARA money. That happens with the XRP buyback money. So here's the example. That $10 million house isn't going to go to $1.6 million. It's going to go to $12.5 million. Why? Because you and somebody else want that home. You don't care that it went up $2.5 million because you got more money than you could ever spend. So you're going to pay more. That's how it goes back to 1955 prices. It doesn't mean things are going to be priced at 2000 or 1955. It means our buying power is being returned to what it was in 1955. As a matter of fact, 1955 was the first year that a dollar was worth a dollar. Isn't that crazy? But probably has to do with the fact that that 1 hour of labor was a dollar. So don't, just cast out that imagination, this false FUD that prices are going back to 1955. That's really a misnomer. What this should say is your buying power is returning to the same buying power of $1 as it was in 1955. That's the correct answer, okay? Brokerage accounts. We talked about bank accounts. Let's talk about crypto accounts, or better said, digital assets, right? Crypto means data in the crypt, and all of them except for 8 are going to survive and go into the quantum financial system. We know that as this system is, quote, turned off and it's burned to the ground, nothing's going to come back up for the cloud. Our old computers are being replaced by quantum computers. These platforms, Binance, Uphold, Coinbase, and any other platform, how many platforms are closing down right now? My goodness. If it's not your crypt, if you don't have the keys to control that that digital asset, XRP, XLM, etc., it's not yours, people. It's at risk. And I'll give you an example. Uphold. That's where I was at. They turn off the lights. They try to bring back up the balances. And Uphold says, yeah, we've got 2 billion XRP. We've got 1 billion of XLM. And I call them and I say, hey, I want to get a hold of my my XRP. And they go, okay, well, we just need you to send us proof of how much you had and when you bought it. And I go, well, I can't access my account. And they say, right. Well, don't you have a printout of it? Well, no, I didn't. You guys don't issue statements. Yeah, but it's right there. You could make a screenshot anytime you want. You could you could download it. We let you download all the detail. Did you ever do that? Well, no, you never told me to do that. I mean, come on, people. we've been pacified by the banking system to always believe that they had the information. Now, back in 1994, when he told us about this new system, he said that the banks are going to burn down, and you're going to walk in, and unless you can provide a statement or something to substantiate your balance, they're going to say, yeah, we have money, but we don't know who it belongs to. We didn't lose any money, but we don't know how much is yours versus anybody else's until you prove it. Well, the same thing holds here. What if Uphold says, well, Dave, we don't have a record of your transactions. Nothing came back up when the system came back up. Or the system is still down, Dave. We can't prove how much you had. Well, wait a minute. That's where I have all my tokens. So sorry, Dave. I'm SOL. But guess what I did? I went and got myself one of those little cold wallets called a Ledger Nano. And I took the time to learn how to move it off of Uphold over to the XRPL directly. And since I'm the only one that has those 24 keys that are on that little device, that's my proof that they're mine. None of my XRP is sitting on that little device. Nobody's tokens are on those little devices. Just the keys that prove it's yours. So you can prove it's yours. But see, if it's sitting on a platform like Binance or Uphold or Coinbase or even Lobster, with what's happening, I could never prove it. It would be lost, be gone. It would belong to the platform. They would reap the benefit. See the difference? That's why you want to move. And here's some instructions on how to do it. It's not investment advice. There's probably people that know how to do this a lot better than me. There's videos out there on YouTube. But you just take your time. You do a small amount to verify the transaction comes over. It shows up in your Ledger Live. And then once it does, then you move the rest of it. I think I did 3 transactions and I increased each one of them. And then moved the last bit. And if I got a warning I was trying to move too much, I just made it smaller. And I ended up with, just a little bit of XLM that I couldn't move over just yet, but I can now. But again, I don't want it sitting any place that I can't prove it's mine. In the event that all the records are gone or can't be identified. Can you imagine coming into the buyback and they say, okay, because I'm on the buyback committee with the valuation committee with Jimmy Valley and Val Capital. And there's 7 of us on the valuation and like 60 something on the confidential committee. But now we're asking, we're working on that aspect to transfer it. And now somebody says, well, whoa, wait a minute. I can't prove it. I never moved it through a cold wallet where I had it directly on the XRPL. That's a sad day. Now, I can't reveal what I want to reveal with regards to that. It's pretty fantastic. Maybe I'll talk about it on the XRP portion, which is probably more appropriate, but again, common sense people, it's like I learned a long time ago not to loan out my stuff. Why? Try to get it back. It's like the moment you loan out stuff to people, they take ownership and they won't tell you when they're not using it. They'll just keep it. And then when you want it back, it's like trying to pull teeth. Oh yeah, I'll get it to you. Yeah. I don't know what it is about that. That was never me. It was like, man, if I borrowed somebody's lawnmower, I mowed my lawn, I washed and waxed their lawnmower. I sharpened their blade. I fixed the tires. I did everything. Oiled the, everything on the engine and the cables to make it even better than it was. And they're like, hey, you can borrow my stuff anytime. Like, do you want to borrow my chainsaw? Or, because they knew it was going to come back looking brand new. So again, use common sense. Do what you need to do. Do it fast. I got my Ledger Nanos through Best Buy because the Ledger Nanos were being stolen out of the Federal Express mail. And since time is so critical, Best Buy has a policy. They do not resell open boxes, and they get everything directly from Ledger. And through the ones that I've purchased and friends, over 50 of them without one problem. Not one problem. So that brings us to the conclusion of this video on all of this great stuff that's happening right now behind the scenes. And you are a very small percentage. Like when I say small, I'm talking about like 0.0000001% of the people out there that know now what's coming. If you're interested in getting more information, and I highly suggest that you do, follow me on Twitter at XRPLion1. Go back and look through my posts. 576 days worth. Haven't stopped. I'm here for one reason, and that's to get the truth out about XRP in this whole process. I just opened up a Rumble channel, the Day of XRPLion show. I'm posting there as well. There's some videos that are sitting on YouTube, and there's the address, or just go to Google and Google XRPLion1, and you can see everything that I've put to date. But just understand this is all for you. God had to wait 7,887 years to bring this restoration blessing forward. It all has to do with a contract that he entered into with the devil, and that contract ended on December 21st, 2020. December 21st, 2020. That was exactly 8 years after the Mayan calendar said that the world was going to end. And the Lord took me all the way back to the Mayan calendar and showed me how it was manipulated. And I carried all that information forward to prove that December 21st, 2020 was the real date, not December 21st, 2012. That's why the lawsuit against Ripple was dropped on December 22nd, 2020. Why the day after the contract ended? Because if the lawsuit had been dropped during that contract period, the enemy could have claimed that God stepped in when he couldn't. And then the contract would have been voided, and he would have continued to reign forever, to still kill and destroy. Think about that. And there's more in the videos and discussions I've done on that. So with that, thank you for your patience for me to get this done. These videos aren't just something I just, I do on my own. I have to get permission. There's timing involved in all of this. And as much as I wanted to get this thing done earlier, because like I said, I've been working on this with a very, very good friend, and